In 1954, Salvador Dalí presented a painting that no one quite knew how to describe, not because it was abstract or incomprehensible, but quite the opposite. The scene was perfectly clear: a crucifixion, Christ on the cross, and a female figure looking up from below. But there was something about that cross that made no sense whatsoever. Dalí painted the cross as a geometric structure made up of 8 perfect cubes floating in the air in the middle of nowhere. Dalí spent 4 years working on this painting, 4 years consulting with mathematicians, studying quantum physics, and meeting with academics to make sure that what he was painting was mathematically exact. With this painting, he wanted to represent with precision something that exists in mathematical theory but that no human being has ever been able to see: the most famous crucifixion in the history of art from a dimension we cannot access, literally. The painting is called Crucifixion, Corpus Hypercubus. Dalí painted it in 1954, and today it is held at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. But to understand why this painting is so extraordinary, we first need to understand what that object is that Christ is crucified on. Because as I mentioned before, it is not a cross, it is a hypercube. We all know what a cube is: a shape with 6 faces, 12 edges, and 8 vertices, a perfectly regular form that exists in 3 dimensions. Now, if we take that cube and unfold it, open it up like a cardboard box, we get a cross. 6 squares connected to each other, all on the same plane. A hypercube is exactly the same thing, but 1 dimension higher. Just as a cube exists in 3 dimensions, a hypercube exists in 4. And just as an unfolded cube gives us a cross of 6 squares, an unfolded hypercube gives us a structure of 8 cubes, exactly the one we see in this painting. The problem is that human beings cannot see the 4th dimension. Our brains are simply not equipped for it. So what Dalí painted here is the 3-dimensional shadow of an object that can only exist in a universe with 4 spatial dimensions. It is like someone living in a completely flat 2-dimensional world trying to imagine a cube. It would be impossible for them to see it. They could only see its shadow, and that is exactly what is happening in this painting. By the time Dalí created this painting, he was already considered the most famous surrealist artist in the world, but his style had changed. Surrealism, with its obsession with dreams and the subconscious, no longer felt like enough. In his 1958 Antimatter Manifesto, he wrote that while in the surrealist period he had wanted to create the iconography of the interior world, he was now fascinated by something completely different, and that his new father was no longer Freud, but Heisenberg, the German physicist Werner Heisenberg, one of the fathers of quantum mechanics. Dalí had discovered modern physics, and what he found in it did not seem incompatible with his Catholic faith. It seemed exactly the opposite, a confirmation that reality was far larger and stranger than anything we could see. He called this nuclear mysticism, a fusion of Catholicism, mathematics, and science that would define the entire second half of his career, and Corpus Hypercubus is the most perfect expression of that idea. In this painting, we notice there is no recognizable historical context whatsoever. Christ is not in Jerusalem. There is no crowd as there usually is in paintings depicting the crucifixion. All we can see is a chessboard floor extending toward an indefinite horizon, and above it, floating in space, the structure of the hypercube. Christ appears crucified on it, but without actually touching it. His body is perfect, muscular, and shows no signs of physical suffering. By painting him without nails or wounds, Dalí transforms Jesus into a body that has transcended pain. His intention with this work is not to represent the moment where Jesus suffers the agony of being crucified, but the resurrection as a triumph over the physical laws of the universe. The female figure looking up is Gala, Dalí's wife and lifelong muse. She appears in the place that in traditional crucifixions would be occupied by Mary Magdalene, but unlike those traditional depictions, she is not dressed in mourning. Her clothes are luxurious because Dalí wanted her to represent the glory of humanity, not its suffering. And finally, there is the chessboard floor. If you look carefully, you can make out 5 black squares on the board that form the silhouette of a cross. It is a second cross, hidden in the floor, that mirrors the one of the hypercube from below, as if the same form existed simultaneously in two different planes. But what makes this painting truly extraordinary is not just its visual complexity, but the question it raises. Dalí believed that science and religion were not opposites. He believed that the further physics went in its exploration of reality, the closer it got to something that believers had been calling the divine for centuries, a universe with more dimensions than we can perceive, a reality that transcends what our senses are capable of registering. The mathematician Thomas Banchoff, professor at Brown University, collaborated with Dalí for almost a decade. When the artist showed him the painting, Banchoff immediately recognized the mathematical precision of the unfolded hypercube, saying that this was not an artistic approximation, but an exact representation. And that is what makes it impossible in the most literal sense of the word. Dalí painted with mathematical precision an object that no human being can see, an object that only exists in a dimension we cannot access. Art critic Kelly Grovier described it perfectly, saying that this painting seems to have found a link between the spirituality of Christ's salvation and the geometric and physical forces of matter. It appears to bridge the divide between science and religion. Dalí spent 4 years solving the mathematical and compositional problems of this painting. 4 years to arrive at an image that in 1954, the same year CERN was founded in Geneva, he presented to the world as his personal response to the atomic age. An age in which humanity had learned to split the atom, but still did not quite know what to do with that knowledge. And Dalí proposed something no one expected, that perhaps physics and faith were not describing different realities, but the same reality seen from different angles. As he himself said, "Thinkers and literary men can give me nothing. Scientists give me everything, even the immortality of the soul." Thank you for watching the video until the end. I would love for you to leave me in the comments your thoughts on this painting. And as always, if you would like to have this work in your collection, it is now available in our catalogue. In the link in the description, you will find more than 900 historical paintings for you to choose your favorites and begin your own art collection. You will also find phone cases, so not only will you protect your phone, but you will always have a work of art in your pocket. Shipping is free worldwide, and by purchasing from the store, you will be supporting me enormously in continuing to create videos like this every week. Thank you for your support, and see you in the next video.